Am I crazy or is he a narcissist? I have been with my husband about 8 years. I'd describe our marriage as a mostly happy one, but lately we've been fighting more, and it's leaving me extremely confused and questioning everything, but mainly myself. 3 years ago, I was dealing with a lot emotionally and repressed trauma, so I did the best thing I've ever done for myself and found a therapist. She is older, but has the same values as me, with the sound mind I needed. She doesn't tell me what I want to hear, she challenges me and makes me think introspectively. With that has fostered growth in me that has helped immensely with my emotional regulation, anxiety, and depression. Anyways, with this comes a problem for my husband. He feels I communicate so differently now, and he hates how I speak like a therapist to him. For obvious reasons this has me gobsmacked, as it's seeming to me like my change in effective communication by taking personal accountability, compromising and sharing my feelings and their origins instead of hiding and using the classic "I'm fine" is a threat instead of a good step in having a healthy relationship. This last fight, which was a piggyback of the unresolved previous one a few days prior, was started over something dumb, but blew up. He got defensive and shut down. If he wasn't shut down, he was yelling and defending his knee-jerk reaction. Now I probably fueled the fire a bit by asking him why he was mad when he was clearly triggered by something, but even so, hurtful things were said. The gaslighting therapist comment was one of them, amongst "I'm over your trauma and emotions, I can't prop you up anymore." I left for a few hours, drove around to calm down and think this out. When I came back after a long text he sent, I was met with more defensiveness, blame and hurtful words. Still no accountability, even when called out for it. I continued to try and not only resolve this issue, but took out pen and paper to write down our needs, rank them in importance and then the action we'd like to see from the other partner to meet them. This to me was a healthy way of communication, and how we could come to the table and make sure there wasn't confusion or resentment building, and hopefully with the work done, we could resolve the problem. It was going to be clear. This never came to fruition, even on paper, as he said the therapist thing was pissing him off and I just needed to talk to him, which we had for hours by that point, going in circles. The exercise was for written confirmation. I have ADHD and forget almost instantly what was said/agreed to, so I want to keep my end of the deal. Both of my parents are classic narcissists. Selfish in every way. I don't think my husband is, but am I just blind? It has me questioning if my change is too far, but I know better than that. I think he's getting scared he can't push me around anymore and I can recognize manipulation. I'm terrified I'm projecting though because of my parents. Any advice? And before you say, divorce or couples counseling, I don't want to leave a good thing unless there's a legit reason, and for couples counseling, he refuses to go. He said if he went he'd remain silent. Comment. This honestly doesn't sound like narcissistic behavior from him. My father is a narcissist in a major way, and the behavior is obvious. I think you and your husband are on different pages in terms of how to best communicate. Think about it like having completely opposite love languages. Except in this instance the therapist form of communication is the best for you with your ADHD, which I also have, so I understand the desire for clarity, while he prefers the much more common standard conversion. Since he doesn't understand the therapist version of communication and based on your post, he hasn't gone to therapy, so he has a hard time understanding these methods of communication. This causes him to get frustrated, which results in the slippery slope effect. I'll provide an example. Argument starts. He attempts to communicate his way. You try to understand his side by framing what he says in a therapy format. He doesn't understand why doing that is important to you and tries again to explain his position his way. You again frame it in a therapy format to help you understand it. He gets more frustrated because he doesn't know how to communicate properly in a therapy format. This continues, and the argument escalates until he explodes and says hurtful things, which only reaffirms your fears. My recommendation is to either have him participate in therapy with you, probably an argument waiting to happen, or you could sit down with him while staying calm. And have an honest discussion where you don't blame him for anything and let him know that you're using that format during your disagreements because it helps you communicate. Let him know it has nothing to do with him, and talking/using those tools helps you clarify his points and your points so you can come to an agreement you both can be happy with. At least, that's what I would do. Very helpful, thank you. I have made those points but he still frames it as speaking like a therapist. I agree, maybe not a true narcissist, not nearly as manipulative and absolutely awful like my parents, but maybe has so slippery manipulative tendencies that have worked for him in the past to get his way, especially with my previous pushover self allowing it. We made the agreement to forgive, but I still feel like this issue looms in the eaves. It will come out again without a tangible resolution. For now, I've decided to push past the argument, do me and check in with him on things he said he'd try to work on. That's all I can do. Thank you for your insight. I agree, ADHD is an insatiable need for clarity. Next story 2. How do I bring my disgruntled brother who has been gone for over 4 years due to conflict with parents back home? Our home seems irreversibly destroyed. Hey, so for the background, I have an older brother who my family and I haven't seen for our 4 years, 50 months to be exact. When my brother was 18 and he attended university, which is around 25 minutes from our house, he got caught with a bunch of other kids with alcohol, so what they do is they just give a warning but they notify the parents. Due to that, my parents forced my brother to commute for 3 years. My brother also worked hard in school but they felt he hadn't pushed himself hard enough because he would work to the strength of classes and they thought his GPA was a bit low, 3.02. My brother told my parents he did not want to do that but they forced him to commute those 3 years of college. My brother told my parents they will regret treating him the way they did one day and they will suffer for their actions. My parents didn't think much of it but they would put restrictions on when he could go out and just overall, my brother suffered depression his last 3 years of university. Come time to graduation, he got his diploma and left commencement without anyone knowing. We didn't see from above him leaving but he left and we didn't realize until long later. We were waiting for him to come take photos with us but he was nowhere to be found, so I called him and he didn't pick up. I then texted him and told him where he was and he said he was seeing some friends and he will be with us in an hour. That was strange and time passed but he did not come. At this point we went home and my brother had suitcases packed and his car packed with my parents and I being shocked. He had job offers but they were shook that he was changed out of graduation gear and had travel bags and suitcases like he was about to leave. My brother reprimanded them saying they were the cause of his depression and he knew his way in life. He said they had no business telling him what to do at that time because he had a healthier body, swimmer's physique, that he started developing in college and they could forgiven him. Instead, he told them they made his life feel like crap and he wanted to make them suffer for their actions. He said he had been waiting for the day he wanted to walk out and he got it. My parents make a lot of money and he brought up how my parents controlled him in high school and how did not allow him to work a basic summer job. He then brought up his 3 years and their threats to not pay his tuition if he used his own internship money to live off campus with his friends, saying they actually didn't care. He threw that graduation cake on the floor we had and said someone on the lines of "To hell with this pretense, you can forget I am your son from today on. I am out of here," and said any attempts to call or contact him through other people will lead to the cops being called. It has been 4 years, 50 months to be exact, since our family last saw my brother in person. I still have my brother on Instagram but our home has been broken. My mother suffered from memory loss and has once been hospitalized due to blood pressure issues but my brother did not bother. My dad has been losing hair and our family is quiet. Nothing meaningful has been done the past 4 years and it seems like our house has been destroyed till today because my brother walked out on us. I have my brother on Instagram and we talk on and off. My brother is doing fairly well now. My parents shamed him for not working hard enough to place in a top company and only starting out 70K, but my brother more than doubled that salary with the company he works at now being a lot more reputable. I do understand a little bit of how my brother felt, but I felt he did too much leaving. He could have at least moved out. It has been 4 years since he's spoken to my parents, and by the looks of it, he probably does not care if they pass. Our home has been destroyed and my parents were constantly fighting my last 2 years of high school. I don't seem to understand anymore. Comment. Your brother has no interest in reconciling with your parents. Till he does, it's pointless for you to try. Nagging him about it will drive him away from you. Stay out of it. It sounds to me like for this to be reconciled, it would have to start with your parents making a genuine apology for how they treated him, and a sincere effort to do better in the future. If you've suggested that and they've shown they aren't interested, then there's probably not much point in hoping your brother will just decide that he's fine with their behavior. And you're probably going to piss your brother off if you nag him about it. My advice is to build your own life, learn about healthy boundaries, and don't let your parents make you feel like you have to follow everything they say and want because you feel bad about your brother leaving. You weren't put on this earth to make your parents feel good. It's their job to make you feel loved, valued, and respected, and to teach you that's what you deserve. Actions have consequences. Your parents chose to punish him for 3 years for one questionable decision. They held his tuition hostage in exchange for obedience. They made him miserable with no remorse. He made a plan and held to it. I'd say he earned his freedom. This situation is between your brother and your parents. You need to accept that from his perspective, they have absolutely earned this, and that there is absolutely nothing that you could do or say to improve the situation. The only likely consequence is him blocking you on Instagram if you attempt to interfere or try to guilt him into allowing them back in. Accept, and maybe one day he will open the door to you once you have moved on from their home as well.